If you work in a mixed-sex environment, or if you've been on a date recently, you will have noticed that we live at a bad time for gender relations. So, why are interactions between men and women so poisonous nowadays? Is it because men continue to oppress women and deny them their rights? Or perhaps it's because men continue to harass women and make them feel threatened? Are women systematically disadvantaged in modern Western societies? In fact, these questions are not the ones we should be asking. They assume that men are the aggressors in relations between the sexes, and that men work together to oppress women for some unspecified reason. If that sounds crazy to you, that's because it is. Patriarchy, defined as rule by powerful men, is a conspiracy theory. It is a substitute religion, and a religion requires only belief, not proof. And feminists are the priesthood of this new and austere religion. How did feminism become so successful? The answer is simple. Radical feminists perfectly emulate the behaviours and thinking of female pathological narcissists. This video will show that modern third-wave feminism is simply the political expression of female narcissism. First, we should ask, what is narcissism? It's a very serious mental disorder which results from abuse or trauma in childhood. One of the causes of narcissism is excessive pampering as a child. It is interesting that the first feminists, especially the suffragettes, were privileged bourgeois women. There may also be a genetic cause to narcissism. After all, some leading feminists, such as Gloria Steinem, have mental illness in their family history, and from an early age, both Steinem and Andrea Dworkin were raised on a steady diet of socialist ideas by their parents. Let's look at how the narcissistic mindset and the feminist worldview are the same damn thing. The most important feature of the narcissist is his or her weak ego. For all their arrogance, the narcissist's ego is fragile. They depend on other people to provide emotional nourishment, or what's been called narcissistic supply. According to Dr. Sam Vaknin, a renowned expert in narcissism, healthy people derive their ego strength from within. Unlike normal people, narcissists have no sense of who they really are, and they derive this sense of self entirely from other people. This, I believe, is the psychological root of the feminist claim that women lack the ability to shape their own lives. In psychological and feminist circles, this ability to determine the course of your own life is known as agency. But this feminist claim that women lack agency is simply the transference of the female narcissist feminist's own weak ego onto their entire gender. Now, saying that feminists lack ego strength might sound a little strange, as they clearly have no problem aggressively or even arrogantly getting their point across. But the feminist mindset is not built upon strong psychological foundations. It comes from feminists' unspoken and possibly unconscious knowledge of their own ego weakness, which they project onto all other women. This has nothing to do with whether women in general are objectively weak or not. But what it means for sure is that it is not women who are disempowered and weak, but rather it is the narcissist feminist projecting her own weakness onto women. Narcissists project their own personal failings onto other people in order to shift the blame for their abuse. For example, they will accuse their victims of being abusive or controlling. This projection can be seen in feminist practice with patriarchy theory, which is nothing more than the projection onto men of female in-group preference. Female in-group preference is the innate bias of women towards the viewpoint of other women, despite what the facts might say. In a famous experiment in 2004, Rodman and Goodwin showed that women will assign positive attributes to their own gender at a rate 4.5 times higher than men do. Feminists abuse female in-group preference, which is a normal biological survival strategy, in order to enlist women and men into their strategy to control society. In feminism, this is known as the women are wonderful effect. In narcissism, this kind of behaviour, this kind of all or nothing thinking, is known as splitting. The narcissist must perceive herself to be good, and all who oppose her must be evil, so that they can be punished or destroyed. At the societal level, this behaviour is known as othering, the dehumanisation of other people in order to more easily destroy them. Allegations of misogyny are another example of the female narcissist's projection. Narcissists see others only as extensions of themselves. For the narcissist, only the narcissist is real. This disordered type of thinking is known as solipsism. If other people do not do what the narcissist wants, he or she will feel righteous indignation and project their hatred onto the target, who to them is not fully real, and does therefore not deserve compassion. Andrea Dworkin provides an excellent example of projection. Feminism is hated because women are hated. Anti-feminism is a direct expression of misogyny. It is the political defence of women hating. Sorry, Andrea. Men don't hate women. We just hate you. Narcissists are infamous for their lack of empathy, or the ability to relate to other people as fellow human beings. For feminist narcissists, this is expressed in their empathy deficit for men, and any other classes whom they deem to be privileged. A favourite tactic of the narcissist is to impose a double standard, which favours them and disadvantages others. This is only possible with a lack of empathy. In feminism, it is perfectly acceptable to sexually objectify men, but objectifying women is exploitation. A very important feature of narcissism is controlling behaviour. Narcissists have an uncontrollable urge to control everyone around them in order to avoid accountability and prevent any damage to their delicate egos from healthy criticism. This can be seen in the feminist obsession with micromanaging perceived male behaviours such as mansplaining or manspreading. Of course, the goal here is to pathologise and criminalise male behaviour simply for being male or other. Our old friend Andrea Dworkin provides another excellent case study in controlling behaviour. Pathologising male behaviour, in particular the enjoyment of pornography, was a lifelong crusade for Andrea. She even went so far as to cultivate long-term contacts with American conservatives, who, despite being ideological enemies, shared her common goal of making pornography illegal. Now, this behaviour might be interpreted as hypocritical, but it is not hypocritical when it is seen through the lens of narcissistic control. At all times, feminism seeks to maximise the choices of women and restrict the choices of men. To a narcissist, freedom is for me, not you. In fact, there is some evidence that feminists are personally controlling and abusive in relationships. For example, the German lesbian feminist Alice Schwarzer, who advocated political lesbianism and opposed domestic violence shelters for men, was exposed by her lover as a domestic abuser. This is not a coincidence. More broadly, this controlling urge manifests in feminists' infiltration of the legal system, all levels of education, democratic politics, and the corporations. Shaming tactics are powerful tools used by both narcissists and feminists to reinforce others' perceptions and silence criticism. Narcissism is classified as a shame-based disorder in which the narcissist compensates for her feelings of unworthiness by transferring those feelings onto others. Narcissists always seek social dominance, and they have no respect for boundaries. This can be seen in the Gamergate scandal, in which feminists such as Anita Sarkeesian attempted to force the video games industry, which is very much a male space, to serve the female agenda. Shaming tactics, for example, stereotyping gamers as basement-dwelling losers, were part of this classically narcissistic attempt to violate boundaries and co-opt the status quo. Another control tactic used by narcissists is gaslighting. This is a manipulation technique in which the narcissist will make you question your own reality by establishing herself as the arbiter of what is real and what is not. So, for example, if you come home one night and the television is missing, the narcissist will deny that you ever had a television, or they will tell you that you threw it away, but cannot remember doing so. An example of feminist gaslighting is this article by Kerry Rupia, entitled "Men Are Trash, End of Discussion." This article claims, offensively, not only that men are trash, but arguing to the contrary is proof that you are trash. This is a narcissistic double bind, a problem created by the narcissist to which there is no solution but further abuse by the narcissist. Feminists also use gaslighting by constantly moving the goalposts, shifting definitions to suit their purposes, for example, by redefining normal interactions between the sexes as harassment or rape, or classifying women's subjective feelings as domestic violence. One of the most important manifestations of the narcissist's arrogance and selfishness is their sense of entitlement. Narcissists are defined by their belief that because they are so special, they are entitled to preferential treatment that is actually not merited. It is not surprising to see that the entitlement felt by narcissistic feminists has led to, well, entitlements. We live in an age of affirmative action for the majority of the population. Gender quotas in the office for women, tax credits for female entrepreneurs, etc. In fact, feminists perform poorly as businesswomen, probably due to their narcissistic lack of self-awareness and inability to take responsibility. Central to the sense of entitlement felt by narcissists is their need for unearned admiration. The female narcissist's toxic sense of entitlement is, of course, in complete denial of reality. The so-called fat acceptance or body positivity trend is a case in point. Feminists blame the laziness and gluttony of overweight women on society's unrealistic beauty standards, or pseudo-medical causes such as genetics, digestive metabolism, or even depression. Of course, this is an attempt to escape responsibility for poor choices and to lay the costs of these bad choices on society, which will pick up the tab for the irresponsibility via the healthcare system. Of course, it is men that must adjust their biological conception of what is attractive in order to satisfy feminists, and they are forced to pay for the costs of these procedures through the tax system. Narcissists are unable to distinguish between the truth and lies and will routinely lie in order to uphold their personal story and avoid bringing attention to their drab and disappointing reality. Narcissists are unable to reality test their belief system because that may damage their egos, and so they often prefer to live in a delusion. This can be observed in the controversy around the wage gap. Even though wage discrimination is illegal and men and women make different economic choices, feminists continue to propagate the victim narrative that women face financial discrimination in the workplace. To a narcissist, only the data that reinforces the delusion is true. Feminism encourages women to attribute blame for their own poor choices on external social forces. In narcissism and personality disorders, this is known as an external locus of control. Unable to accept responsibility, the narcissist is not responsible for his actions, but seeks to blame others for his failures and misfortunes. An example of this can be seen in how the noted feminist Camille Paglia has been treated for suggesting that women may wish to take responsibility, in some part, for their own security and safety. For the narcissist, everything is someone else's fault. And in feminism, the bogeyman is the evil patriarchy. Patriarchy is actually just a label for all men, and all women are merely the default victims of male dominance. This is even the case when claims are blatantly fabricated. Narcissists will also make accusations simply for emotional effect, for example to win an argument, and without any evidence of actual harm taking place. Now that we have seen the uncanny resemblance between feminism and pathological narcissism, in part 2, we'll be looking at how to spot a narcissistic feminist.